Alright, let's dive into something that's been blowing up on TikTok lately. People sharing the items they swear are always worth the money. But here's the thing, I've been thinking a lot about this, and personally, I think what makes this trend so fascinating is how subjective it really is. What's a game changer for one person might be a total waste for someone else. I mean, if you don't drink coffee, that $500 espresso machine is just a fancy paperweight, right? So, while these TikToks are fun to watch, they're also a reminder that financial advice isn't one size fits all. What's truly worth it depends on you, your lifestyle, your goals, your values. That's why I'm not just going to list items here. I'm going to break down the why behind what makes certain purchases universally smart, and why others, well, aren't. Let's get into it. First up, one theme that keeps popping up is preventative care. Financial planners are all over this, and honestly, it's a no-brainer when you think about it. Spending money on things like good sunscreen, regular dental checkups, or even home maintenance might feel like a splurge, but what many people don't realize is that these small investments can save you from massive expenses down the line. I've seen friends ignore their car's weird noise, only to end up with a $2,000 repair bill. If you take a step back and think about it, preventative care is like buying peace of mind. It's not just about avoiding costs, it's about avoiding stress, too. And in my opinion, that's priceless. Another category that's been getting a lot of love is high-quality essentials. Think shoes, mattresses, tires, office chairs. One thing that immediately stands out is how often we undervalue these items. Sure, you could buy cheap shoes, but if they're uncomfortable, you're not just wasting money, you're risking your health. A detail I find fascinating is how planners frame this as anything between you and the ground. It's such a simple way to think about it, but it's genius. What this really suggests is that quality in these areas isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. The cost per use is often pennies, and the alternative? Well, that's usually a medical bill or a replacement sooner than you'd like. Now, let's talk about time-saving services. This is where things get really interesting, because it's not just about money, it's about buying back your time. Personally, I've started paying for curbside grocery pickup, and let me tell you, it's a game changer. What many people don't realize is that time is your most valuable resource. If you can afford to outsource tasks you hate, or that eat up your hours, it's often worth every penny. This raises a deeper question, though: how much is your time worth to you? For me, it's worth a lot, and I'm willing to spend to protect it. But I get that not everyone feels the same way, and that's okay. Here's something that's less flashy but absolutely critical: retirement contributions. I know, it's not as exciting as a new gadget or a fancy vacation. But hear me out. Contributing to your 401k, especially if your employer matches it, is like getting free money. What this really suggests is that some of the most important financial decisions aren't about spending. They're about investing in your future self. It's easy to overlook this when you're young, but trust me, your future self will thank you. From my perspective, this is one area where you absolutely cannot cut corners. Now, let's shift gears to the gray area: purchases that are sometimes worth it. Take life insurance, for example. It's one of those things where the answer depends entirely on your situation. If you've got a family relying on your income, term life insurance is a no-brainer. But whole life insurance? That's a different story. It's often marketed as a retirement plan, but what many people don't realize is that it's usually a pretty expensive way to invest. In my opinion, it's only worth it for a narrow group of people. So, before you sign up, do your homework. Home improvements are another tricky one. Sure, renovating your kitchen might make your home more valuable, but what this really suggests is that the true return isn't always financial. If you're a cooking enthusiast and plan to stay in your home for years, that upgraded kitchen could bring you joy every single day. But if you're doing it just to boost resale value, you might not get the return you're hoping for. It's all about aligning your spending with your priorities. And then there are the purchases that are rarely worth it. Storage units, for instance. I've seen so many people rent these with the best intentions, only to end up paying for space they don't need. What many people don't realize is that the real cost isn't the monthly fee, it's the mental weight of holding on to things you don't need. If you take a step back and think about it, storage units are often just a way to avoid making decisions. And in my opinion, that's not a great use of your money. Finally, let's talk about status purchases. This is a big one, because it's not just about the money, it's about your mindset. Buying things to impress others or keep up with the Joneses is a surefire way to derail your financial goals. What this really suggests is that true financial independence comes from spending intentionally, not reactively. Personally, I think the key is to focus on what genuinely improves your life, not what looks good on social media. So, what's the takeaway here? In my opinion, the real lesson isn't about specific items, it's about understanding why certain purchases are worth it for you. It's about aligning your spending with your values, your goals, and your long-term happiness. And honestly, that's the kind of advice that's always worth the money. What do you think? Are there items you swear by, or do you disagree with some of these points? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your take.